Hello, everyone, and a very warm welcome to my podcast, Don't Get a Therapist Yet. And today I am very privileged to have a very special guest. His name is David Polidi, and he is a social worker, therapist, author, editor, and a great human as well. So, David, I just want to give you a very warm welcome to my podcast.
Oh, thank you. It's wonderful to be here. I'm so happy to be part of this. So
It's
thank you.
wonderful to have you as well. And one of the reasons I really wanted to invite you is you have edited this amazing book, which is IFS Informed EMDR. Okay, and I've got a copy, and as you can see, I'm working my way through
Oh,
it.
I love that. Yeah, that's so cool. It's well loved.
It's well loved. I've actually put plastic over it to keep the cover
Oh,
really
wow.
nice as
Okay.
well. It's a very precious book, so thank you so much for putting it. It's a lot of work has gone into this, hasn't it? A lot of
Oh my
work.
God. Yeah. Yes. Books are definitely a labor of love, I
They
find.
are.
And
Yeah.
this is my first book, so I didn't know it going into it. But afterwards, I realized I joke around with my writer friends that writing a book or editing a book, it's like giving birth.
Oh,
Just
you
it
know.
takes longer than 9 months, but it's just that labor of love, the carrying it along inside of you, inside of your head, and then when it comes out into the world, and how proud of it you feel, and it's similar. It's
Fantastic.
similar, I
It's
should
a
say.
it's a great metaphor as well. So, people might, the listeners might not know a little bit about you, David. So, can you just tell the listeners a little bit more about yourself?
Sure, sure. Well, so I live across the ocean in Massachusetts,
Hmm.
in the U.S., and I am a social worker. So my official title is LICSW, but I'm a therapist, a social worker. I have a practice with my wife. It's called Empowered Through Compassion. So that kind of I like those words. I think they really represent the heart of what we're trying to do in the work. And let's see, I started a podcast a little while ago after I've been in the field for a long time, and I think in 2000, I went in and I was working in schools with little kids. And
Oh,
yeah, I was a guidance counselor and a school social worker. And I didn't love it. I didn't love it. I loved working with the kids. I loved working with the teachers. I didn't really appreciate the politics of it. And so I went back to school and then got another master's. And this time the social work was a much better fit because it was a lot more working with families and
mm,
with kids, still with kids, but with their parents too, where, there's something about that just felt like, how could you work with kids without knowing the system that they're in and giving support to the parents? Because if the parents are struggling with things, then, for so many times during the week, they're going to be the ones impacting the children. And so then from there, I, uh, I'll fast forward to 2020, but when 2020, when the pandemic hit,
hmm.
um, I was home. I was doing community work, and so we weren't able to do that. And I just started diving into trauma, and it was this thing that I've always loved and appreciated. The work that I was doing had trauma within it, but I really got officially trained in EMDR, and then that led to IFS, and then that led to the integration of EMDR and IFS, and that led to me saying to myself, "Oh man, I got to share this with people. I gotta bring this out." And, a lot of people are, and I'll jump on the bandwagon. But ironically, when I was doing it, there was no book on IFS informed
Hmm.
EMDR. All of a sudden now there's like 5 books, but at first when I was thinking about it, there was no other book. So I talked to my consultant and I said, let's write a book. I want to write a book. And he was very gracious and extremely helpful. I'm sure we'll talk about him a lot. Um, but he helped me with it. And then it was really an effort of love, but it was really an effort of a lot of people. It was all of us kind of coming together. And um, I felt very lucky to be a part of that group of trainers and, you know, teachers and consultants. And and then together we kind of came up with this title of IFS Informed EMDR, creative and collaborative approaches. Because really, I think integration is about appreciating the diversity of different voices that are out there. And really, I'm going to talk about IFS a lot because I love IFS. But if you haven't heard of IFS, it's all about parts, and it's all about the parts of us, ego states of us. And there's no bad parts. They're all good. They're all wise. They all tell us something. And it's really appreciating the diversity of parts within ourselves. And so, how else better to reflect that than by talking about models and reflecting the diversity of models that are out there? That's who I
Yeah,
am.
that
That's the long
sounds
version.
that sounds great. And I think people might want to know what IFS stands for as well.
Sure. It's IFS is internal family systems.
Hmm.
So it's a little bit misleading because when I tell people, oh, I love IFS, internal family systems, they think, oh, you like to work with families. And I say, yes, I do. But this is really an internal trauma
Mm,
model that
mm,
talks about the internal family.
mm.
So I like to think of it, and this is very simplistic, but I like to think of it. Have you seen the movie Inside Out?
Oh yeah, yeah.
So I think of it
Very
like that,
good.
where you
It's
have,
very
you know,
good.
the parts inside of our psyches are more three-dimensional. They're not just feelings. But if you think of Inside Out and you have all these little creatures running around inside of you, um, that's what they mean by internal family.
Mm,
It's the forces inside that kind of come out at different times to protect us, to help us, to carry our traumas, to guide us. That's the parts inside of us.
mm. Absolutely. And there's quite a few therapies who do support multiple selves, don't they? I mean, as I said to you before, I'm trained in drama therapy, and that was very much built on Gestalt, which is parts as well. And compassion focused therapy talks about multiple selves. So, although it might seem a little bit strange to the listeners, there's quite a lot of, you know, therapists building up to this idea of multiple selves, isn't it? Yeah, I think it's a really, really good way
Yes.
of understanding our complexity and who we are. Yeah, very good.
Yeah, it's a map. It's a map to
Map. Yeah.
understand our internal worlds that I find to be extremely helpful
Mm,
for me and for a lot of my clients, not
mm,
all.
mm,
Um, but yeah, definitely it says that we all naturally, normally, it's very healthy, have a multiplicity inside of ourselves. And that it doesn't necessarily have to be a multiplicity that you think of with like DID, you know,
mm,
dissociative identity disorder. That would be a type of multiplicity, which then becomes very hard sometimes to navigate
mm,
through the world. And, you know, you go in through different selves and you forget like what, you know, one self might not know another self. And so I think that's all the way on one end of the spectrum. But I think IFS and some of these other therapies would say that multiplicity within us is something that really happens within all of us.
mm,
Just some people don't really recognize it or perhaps see it in that way.
mm. Absolutely. And I think you made a really good point. My understanding is, there isn't a bad part as well. They all have a function, don't they? And I think that's a very positive message to give to people as well. There's, they do have a function, but they're not all bad. They're not bad. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's interesting because, you know, I think that was the more I talk about it, the more I kind of like to think of, and perhaps this is the message of the movie Inside Out, where the whole movie, I think you're seeing sadness as a part that you're trying to get rid of, or at least
Yeah.
joy. Another part is saying we got to be happy, and
Mm.
you, sadness, stand in this little circle and don't leave it, because it's not until the end where it really becomes apparent that sadness has so much of a gift to offer the
Mm.
little girl. And when she's able to dig into her sadness, she cries and this love comes out and her parents are able to comfort her. And all of a sudden you recognize as the audience member that, oh, sadness has this kind of magical quality that helps her connect in
Mm.
a way to others that maybe joy can't or the others can't. So each of our parts, whatever they are,
Mm.
and everybody's individual. Like they're always saying when you're working with somebody, I'm not going to identify your parts. You know, they have cards that will identify different things, and there's certain themes or certain archetypes. Jungian archetypes are
Yes.
wonderful,
Yes, another one.
but yeah, and even like tarot cards, right? Even tarot
Mm.
cards have different archetypal symbols, and you know, I'm thinking of like, you know, I don't know, the emperor or the empress, or but I think that, you know, we really have each person go inside and recognize and identify what their parts feel like
Mm.
and how they appear to the people.
Mm. Yeah, very good. And in itself is an amazing process, isn't it? That's just sort of,
Oh yeah.
initial phases, but that is incredibly interesting and rewarding and curious, and to sort of really understand yourself, isn't it? It's great. Yeah. Okay. And I just want to move on to EMDR because people who listen to this podcast or are watching it on YouTube might be very familiar with EMDR, but it's still not that well known, really. So, Dave, would you mind just giving us a bit of an overview of what EMDR is, if you're okay to do that?
Of
Thank
course.
you.
Yes, yeah. I deciding how personal to get. I was in therapy um for years and years. I love it. And back
Great.
in I think it's
Great.
helpful for all of us, right? We're all
Absolutely.
human.
Well
We all have
done
human and we all,
for being brave
yeah.
enough to go to therapy. It's excellent.
Right, right. Yeah, and vulnerable. And
Mm.
so in the early 2000s, I was in therapy or looking for a therapist, and I talked to somebody and they said, "Oh, you should talk to so and so because they do EMDR." And that's really good if you have some trauma stuff that's coming up. Um, that EMDR was one of the ones that was really kind of held in high esteem, that this is something that really works to relieve trauma. So I went to her and she was wonderful. And the EMDR did not really work actually for me, but, and I'll tell you why,
Okay.
but I ended up doing more talk therapy. We did some ACT, which is acceptance and commitment therapy. We probably threw some CBT in. It was, you know, a little bit of this, a little bit of
Yeah, a little
that.
bit there. Yep, good.
Extremely helpful. Extremely helpful. But later I came back to it and I was still something about EMDR really drew me to it. It stands for eye movement, desensitization and reprocessing. But I believe Francine Shapiro, who created the model, said if she had to name it again, she would name it just reprocessing.
Yeah.
That it initially, this is what she named it and it caught on. So it just stayed as
Mm.
EMDR, but it definitely has a component of eye movement or some type of bilateral stimulation. So it's this left, right, rhythmic kind of movement, either with
Mm.
your eyes, with tapping. They do if you could see me on YouTube, the butterfly
Yeah,
hug, and you tap the
absolutely.
shoulders. People could listen to music and have
Yep.
it come from one ear, the other ear, like a drum beat almost, side to side. So there's many ways to do it. But that activates certain things in the brain. And Francine Shapiro also has a theory on which she calls the AIP,
Hmm.
which is God, I always get this wrong. Um, I usually edit it out what I do, but we could leave it in. What is it? Basically it's the information processing
Yeah.
network. Um, and so what it does is I'm not great with like technical names, but the AIP, I should know. I wrote the
Yeah.
book. I should know this. The AIP is a part of us where it's part of our body that I think she describes it as metabolizing information. So in the same way you eat a sandwich at lunch, we have an experience and it comes into us and it turns into a memory. And we kind of extract from that information, this is what I'm going to need. This is what I'm going to hold on to. This is what I'm going to metabolize and make a part of me, part of my cells, a part of my brain. And this is the stuff that I don't really need to remember. It just allow it to leave. When we have trauma, I have a really good definition of it in my book. But when we have trauma, we're in a situation where we feel powerless, we feel out of control, we feel overwhelmed, we feel that we are in some kind of danger. So our body goes into this automatic state of protection where it either takes us out or it puts us into fight or flight. Things happen inside of our nervous system. And at that point, we're not able to fully process what's happening in that moment. So our body then holds on to some of that memory, some of the energy of that traumatic event. And that's what makes it a trauma that later, however long, whether we're looking at weeks, months, years, decades, when your body and your senses are reminded of this initial traumatic event, it almost feels like you go through a time machine and it feels like you're right there again in the moment, reacting in a similar way, or some of the ways that you reacted come right back into the present moment. So EMDR, I feel I might be going all over the place here, but
No,
EMDR,
it all makes sense. It's great. It's great.
oh, good. So the AIP that Francine, put into this model EMDR, the AIP is basically the system that somehow got disrupted. Like somehow the event was so large that the AIP couldn't work the way it normally works. And so something gets stuck in the body. And so when you're doing EMDR, there's different phases, and you want to make sure the person is safe. You want to make sure that they have positive resources to go into.
Yeah.
But I think ultimately what the hope is that you're going to help them get safe in their body in the present moment. And then you have this thing called dual awareness, where then you activate through BLS this AIP system inside of somebody and you reactivate what got stuck. And in the safety of the present moment, you're going back and forth. In the safety of the present moment, you're able to have a new kind of experience of that old information. And that's where the old information gets processed and the stuff that you no longer need is able to, kind of be expelled from your body.
Wow, that's a fantastic explanation, David. And just to recite that off that, is it adaptive information process? Is that right? I'm trying to
That's
remember.
it.
Yeah.
That's right.
Well, I had time to think about it because you were
Adaptive
doing all the talking.
information
Yeah,
processing.
yeah.
That's exactly
That's
what
it.
it
Yeah,
is.
I know.
Yes.
It's a EMDR. I mean, I sometimes forget what does EMDR. Oh, I can't remember what it means. Oh yeah, yeah. It's a very strange word. I always say I'm sorry about the title. It doesn't mean anything. People go, what? What is
Yes.
it?
Yes.
That's a great explanation. Thank you so much for that. And it is difficult to explain, isn't it? What trauma is and how it works. But yeah, it's
Yeah, I think
great.
this is for all of the audience, those who are therapists who might be interested in this, those who are maybe seeking a therapist or in therapist who want to
Yep.
know what it is. But a lot of times I might say, oh, I have this thing called EMDR, and I won't go into a big explanation unless somebody wants it. And I'll just say, I have this. Can we be a little crazy? Do you mind? Can we try something and just see how it is? And if they're game for that, I don't need to go into big
No,
explanation.
no. You're right. Sometimes it's a difficult thing to explain, but once people are willing to go and once they experience it, then they go, yeah, that works. Oh yeah, I feel that. Yeah. Oh, I feel great.
That's right.
Yeah,
Because it really is all about the feeling. All of
yeah.
these models about
Absolutely.
this experiential kind of feeling
So
that
much
is
so.
healing. And you could talk, 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 talk.
Yeah.
But if you don't feel the feelings, it's not going to get you as
Mm.
far.
No, absolutely, totally agree. And once you've experienced EMDR, I feel, it's difficult because the others don't really touch it. It's like Guinness; it reaches the parts that other places don't. I think it's Guinness or there's some lager, but yeah, it does touch parts differently, doesn't it? You can actually, I was reading your book earlier. It claims it can actually thoroughly process the emotions, so that there is
So I
it's
think
all
it
gone.
levels it up.
Yeah.
Well, see, okay, so we're bringing up a really interesting thing. So what happened to me when I was what I think happened when I was younger is that I had parts that were afraid of being too vulnerable in
Hmm.
that moment with my therapist. And so those parts kind of put up their hands, and I didn't know any of this, but I think inside my body those parts were like, yeah, we're not going to go here, we're not going to totally just allow ourselves to really feel the pain that the EMDR
Mm.
bilateral was trying to bring us to.
Mm.
So I just didn't feel anything. It was just like, okay, this is interesting, but I stayed in my head. And so I think that's where this knowledge of IFS could really add so much
Mm.
to the EMDR work. And then like you're suggesting, I think IFS talks about parts, it talks about traumatized parts, talks about unburdening them, which is healing. Um, but I think there's some real value in EMDR. And this is what Bruce Hersey did. So my consultant is Bruce Hersey. He
Hmm.
has a chapter in the book and he helped me where he said, call this one, try to reach out to this one. And I had certain friends and connections through my podcast, but then he got all of the trainers in Syzygy Institute that teaches IFS Informed EMDR to be part of this book. And so, really what he teaches, and I have so much respect for, is that we're really doing EMDR with a part. We're really figuring out, okay, what part is here and what part, and there's different ways that we could use the fabulous knowledge of EMDR to work with what's called the protector part or work with an exile part, which is more like a traumatized young part of us. But so we're using the EMDR in that moment, and I think it adds a richness to the trauma healing. I think all trauma work is really, when we get down to it, it's relational work.
Mm.
And so, what the EMDR does, I think EMDR at its best is when we really appreciate the relationship that's being created. So, the EMDR really helps us connect to these individual parts so that we could really understand them, witness them, and then really help them kind of have this lived experience of what healing looks like.
I think in your book, if I've got this right, is that the relationship with the therapist is still really important so that the person feels able to be vulnerable and share the part. So that especially if it's a traumatized part,
You got that
is
totally
open
right.
to be healed, and they won't open up until they actually feel that kind of connection or that relationship
See,
with the
this
actual
is
therapist.
why I'll say a bold statement here. This is why I don't think AI will ever fully replace us. Is because
It'll
I think
try.
that human it'll try, and it is trying. It is trying. Um, I think ultimately you are absolutely right, and I'm so glad you said that because I hope that message is really comes out clearly in the book
Mm.
that it's all about the relationship.
Mm.
It's about the relationship that the therapist has with the client, which then creates enough safety for the client to start having a new relationship with themselves.
So true. Very profound. So agree with that statement. Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
And like you said, so when you actually were able to feel vulnerable, did that change the your therapy, David?
Oh, I'm in therapy now, and it's been a life changer. I'm doing more now, um, IFS therapy to really. I like to, when I do these models, also just sit on the other side of the couch. And
Yes,
it's like,
very,
well, if I'm
yeah.
going to do it to somebody, I want to see
Mm.
what it feels like. And,
Mm.
and I'm human. I have tons of things to look at. And so, Yeah, it's been amazing. It's been amazing on how deep it's been, the level
Yeah.
of depth which it's allowed
Mm. Wow, that's
my
amazing.
system to go to. And you know, another thing that my therapist says all the time is we can't take our clients to places that we haven't gone ourselves. And so, you know, being able to be in therapy, being able to really heal yourself, you know, it's this thing that just gets deeper and deeper and deeper. Um, it helps to level up what we're able to do with people that we're seeing.
Mm. That's so profound and very totally agreeable as well. Yeah, absolutely. And a lot of, a lot of therapists, and this is being totally open as well, I've had loads of trauma in my life, and that's probably why I became a therapist. You're saying the same thing, because you know what it feels like
Yeah,
to
I
have
think
that
Jung talked
despair.
about the wounded healer
That's right, the wounded healer.
as an
Yeah.
archetype.
Mm? It is, yeah, yeah. So good on you for actually being open and sharing that. Thank you so much for that, David. That's really, really good. I think you've answered this question. I suppose just a little bit more about, how do you think it benefits to have this combined approach, these two different therapies together? What do you think? How does that actually work as a benefit?
Yeah, it kind of comes back to that saying, and excuse me, I'm sorry that I don't know who said this, but it's not me. Somebody said, you know, the what is it? The entire system is more than just the sum of its parts.
Yeah.
So I think that's how I feel about the models. That you know, it adds dimension, it adds layers when you have different pieces of information that you could draw from. And Bruce talks about how both IFS and EMDR are maps to the internal world. So when you layer them on top of each other, you just have a little bit more precision. Perhaps you have a little bit more of an understanding of this landscape that we're talking about. So, you know, I try really hard to be really to adhere to the models as much as I can. I have some issue with EMDR, so I could tell you about that issue. But 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 to be fair, I think it's brilliant, and I try to adhere to that model. And I try to adhere to IFS. And I think you could do that. And I think so you're always, so it's giving you more information of your precise location of what phase you are in terms of EMDR, like, okay, are we in a phase two? Are we in a phase four? Where are we? And then with IFS, okay, which part are we
Mm.
working with right now? And what is it that that part is saying or needing? There's another component to IFS, which I
Mhm.
think is also really vital, which I don't feel like they really have an equivalent to it in ego state therapy specifically, but some of the other ego state therapies, um, which is this whole concept of self energy. And that's this
Yes.
really beautiful concept where, in terms of IFS, once the parts trust you, maybe relax back a little bit, you start tuning into this energy that is in between the parts and in the system that is not really coming from a part that needs something or a part that wants to achieve. It's just this calm, spiritual kind of energy of just acceptance, love, compassion, joy. In IFS, they call it the 8 C's because
Mm.
there's 8 C words that define it. So they have compassion, curiosity, calm, connected, courageous, confident. Trying to see if I get all of them here. That was 6. And calm, connected, uh, creative, compassionate, curious, clarity. I think I said all of them at some point. They're in there, but
It's
they're
not a
C words.
test,
But
David. You don't need to
much
worry. You
more
don't
than
have to
that.
remember everything. It's absolutely fine. I mean,
You
you're
don't. You can
doing
write them down, right?
brilliantly.
You can write them down. But it's a feeling of an energy that just is. So it's this feeling
Yeah.
of like I'm
Yeah.
content with just being a part of this relationship where I'm with somebody or internally with myself, and I accept it and could just provide that love without needing anything from that
Mm,
moment.
mm,
So like Eckhart Tolle, it would be like just totally being in the present moment
mm,
and appreciating it. And so I think that this that concept of self energy is so profound, because when we're working with the client, it's another way, another kind of assessment to say how much self energy is in the room. And if I'm a therapist, I want to check in to like, am I bringing self energy into the space? If I'm not, you start learning how to feel what that feels like.
mm,
If there's not a lot of self energy in me, oh boy, I need to figure out what parts are activated. And maybe, in the book, there's a chapter closer to the end by Joanne Twombly about the fire drill. But the fire drill is getting all of your parts to like pretend there's a fire drill. And all of the alarms are, let's get you out of the building. Let's account for all of you, make sure you're all safe, and let you know, okay, don't worry, there's no danger, but we're going to stay out of the building for a little bit. So be
brilliant.
comfortable, get what you need, and then when you're able to come back in, we'll address whatever's coming up inside of you. But for right now, just hang out outside. It's a nice day outside. Hang out outside, and so you want to do that because that helps open up some space for self. And then if you're in self energy, there's co regulation
Mm,
going on now with the person that you're with.
mm,
And you want to sense how much self energy is inside of that other person. If
mm,
there's a lot of self energy that's present, what that means is, we have access to the AIP, which you so wonderfully told me is the adaptive information process. We now have access to that. If there's no self energy, or if there's little self energy, that also is really interesting,
mm,
because it doesn't mean anything's wrong with the person. It doesn't
mm,
mean nothing's going wrong or nothing's going right in that moment. It means that there's parts there.
mm,
So then we could get curious and say, okay, there's not a lot of self energy. What are the parts that are blocking access to that client's self energy? What are the parts that are showing up, and what are they needing right now to be welcomed into the space, to feel connected, to feel calm, to feel, compassionate? What is it that they need right now in this moment? And so those are the questions that we could ask to really get a sense of like where we need to go with the client. And what that is to me, which I love, is it really kind of expands phase two of EMDR, because phase two is safety. So that is really like, how do you have self energy in that
mm,
space? And so instead of saying, well, let's, do a safe space, or let's do a contain, whatever it is that you do to help the person reach safety or somatically reach safety, still do all of that. This just helps me understand, like, okay, what we're really doing is trying to see how much self energy
mm,
is in that space. So then we can move on to phase three, phase four, or how, what is the parts that we need to connect with, so they could give us permission to
mm,
go to the parts that are struggling and
mm.
holding on to the trauma.
And I'm not trained in IFS. I'm trained in EMDR, not in IFS, so I don't have the knowledge. But I think what sometimes phase two in EMDR is building safety and resources into a safe place, and it's a lovely, lovely practice. But I think what you're saying is sometimes people can't access a safe place. It's really hard for them, and I think what you're saying is probably because there's a part there which is kind of hiding or protecting them, so it makes
Yeah,
it
I'm
much
saying
harder.
something else a little bit more, a little bit, what is the word? A little bit more controversial, a little bit more,
Oh, controversial, David. Oh, okay,
yeah,
come
I
on
mean,
then.
there's a little bit.
Bring it
I'm
on.
saying a little controversial. I'm saying that sometimes safe space is not good.
Okay.
Sometimes it is, but imagine all the parts, right? And imagine we have one part that's really, really upset inside a system. So it's like a child, it's like children, it's like a
Yeah.
classroom. So you have one child that's really upset and loud and obnoxious. And then you have another part that goes, Yes, safe space. Let's do safe space because that's going to get that one to shut up. Yes, let's beautiful. Look at get some of the classmates in. Is like, let's all do safe space really loud so that we don't have to hear that obnoxious one in the corner.
Oh,
That would be what
yeah.
IFS, and what it's led
Mm,
to is IFS community sometimes saying resourcing is bad. We
mm,
don't want external resources. We
mm,
want only internal resources. But
mm,
I think they missed the boat in that. So now I'm being
mm,
controversial for them. I think that it's not that it's good or bad, it's what's the intention. And if you're using it to help the parts feel more connected, feel more calm, so that we can listen to them, so that we can connect to them, resourcing is so valuable. But
mm.
if you're using it to just try to calm them down
Yeah.
and not really understand, so it's like
Mm.
you're silencing some of their parts, then it's not helpful.
I think you make a really good point, David. And I think probably I don't want to go much into what I do, but I think a range of resources is useful, isn't it? Not just to rely on one, because they just normally say that, and I use sometimes calm. I don't even want quite like the word safe sometimes. I don't think it's quite right. But yeah, there's
Oh, see, you're
variety.
saying range. You're starting to sound like an integrationist.
Oh, I am. I'm very much an integrationist. Yeah, absolutely. I'm on your team. I'm David's team there. Yeah, absolutely. Yay. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I do think there's a lot more, and like you're saying, and it is actually, being okay. I think what you're saying is if the person who's in the room is feeling a bit awkward or resistant, I think the IFS is helping you to understand that, isn't it? Rather than,
To get
you know.
curious, to pause. The
Yeah,
big thing
get
with
curious and
IFS,
pause. Yeah.
yes, they always say, and I think they got this from the Navy, but they always say slow is fast.
Mm.
Slow is
That's
fast.
good.
And
Good.
so
Yeah.
I even have like a bunch of sloths in my office to because they're slow, and that's like a mascot, right? Of Syzygy. They say they joke that the sloth is the mascot of Syzygy. So my daughter, whenever she finds something that's related to Flash, which is a sloth in Zootopia, she'll buy it and Dad, look what I got for you, um, because
I
slow is
love it.
fast. And so IFS in that moment helps me slow down my system, slow down
Yeah.
the client system, and say, okay, if a resource works, beautiful. If it doesn't work, let's pause a little bit to try to understand why. And there
Mm.
could be multiple reasons. But if it's not working because one part doesn't want to be calm or one part doesn't want to be grounded, then we turn to that and listen to that.
Mm. I love it. Yeah. Great. Yeah. Really good, isn't it? Yeah.
Maybe that part wants to just yell. And I say, go
Yeah.
for it. Just
Yeah.
yell. That's fine. Or that part wants
Absolutely.
to do something else. Good. Go for it. Express what that part needs to express right now.
I think the other thing I read about IFS, if I can say it, is old theory of which is sometimes good. I'm not dissing it, but they say, oh, the client's being resistant. IFS don't use that word, does it? It doesn't say it's not resistant. It's a part and understanding the role the part plays. Would that be right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's my understanding. That's 100% correct.
Mm.
That there is no resistance, and if there is resistance, then and this is where maybe my understanding of what Bruce. I love MI too, so I use some of the MI language, which I think they would cringe at resistance. The word, but Bruce would say that he likes also the coherence therapy. And coherence therapy would say everything in our system has some kind of meaning, has some kind
Mm.
of coherence. So the resistance is really probably some kind of protection,
Mm.
where the resistance itself is saying, I don't feel safe moving at this pace.
Mm.
I'm going to resist because that's what's needed to happen right now for the benefit of the system.
Mm.
So I think we try to understand that. We plow
Yeah.
through that. What IFS says is then they get backlash.
Mm.
So if a part is saying, please stop, and we're like, okay, thank you, go to your safe place and let's keep going, that's when there's could be potential of
Mm.
backlash or, you know, suffering within the client, either in that moment or after the therapy session, where the part's like, oh, I don't like what you did. And I'm going to show you I don't like what I did. And I'm going to give you a bellyache or whatever it does to, to kind of talk back and say that it's unhappy.
Yeah, very good. Yeah. Just did you used MI. Is that, do you mean motivational interviewing? Is that what you
Motivation.
mean?
So
Yeah.
my new book, which will come out in a couple of years, I guess, is hopefully it's going to connect IFS, EMDR, and motivational interviewing.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Probably the
'Cause that's
most, yeah.
another therapy that I love. I think there's a lot of intersection, if done correctly,
Mm,
with all of these
mm,
models.
yeah. Yeah. They're really good. Yeah. And just another
What
question.
they would say.
Yeah.
Yeah. You
Yeah.
go, please.
Um, when you say trauma, some people might sort of have a different version of trauma. And when you say trauma, are you able to just sort of give an overview? I think you've mentioned you have it
Sure.
in the book.
Sure. I do.
Yeah.
I do. So I'd love to read it.
Yeah,
And again,
please
I
do.
think there's many different definitions of trauma.
Yeah.
So it depends on who you ask. And but mine, I feel what I like to use. I thought about it and then I put it into the introduction of the book. So I'll read it to you.
Good. Please do.
I call this. Ooh, what's that?
Please
I,
do.
I call this I call this my working definition of trauma. So here's my working definition. It's a couple of sentences. Trauma is an experience in time when you perceived your world to be unsafe and you did not believe in your heart that you could be kept safe. You were alone and overwhelmed. Your body imprinted this feeling and held it. Now, whenever you are reminded of this initial threat, your body travels back in time and the original emotional memories are activated. This trauma is held in the cells of your body, keeping some element of this trauma's energy alive within you.
Wow, it's amazing. Yeah. That really does describe it well, doesn't it? And people hopefully can relate to that. It's a feeling, isn't it? I know you can have images in your head and it can be a whole thing as well, but there's that feeling in your body. That's so true, isn't it,
Yeah.
David? Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
And
and people could feel it differently, and it could be that sinking feeling in your stomach. It
mm,
could be like that fire where it's like all of a sudden your muscles get really tight and you have to do something, or you can't stop thinking, can't stop thinking. Like there's so many different ways that trauma could appear,
mm,
but it's really the body kind of being wired by that original event
mm,
where it felt so unsafe.
mm.
There's an evolutionary, I think, reason why our bodies will hold on to that because it doesn't want us to be safe, unsafe again. But then now in our modern world, we could have, memory, we could have activation of that memory where we are safe, but our body doesn't recognize it. Our mind is like, we're safe. It's just a car backfiring, but our
Yeah.
bodies go right into that moment of, trauma, and then they get stuck there.
Yeah, yeah, so much. Yeah, absolutely. And a lot of people will say logically they understand they're not safe. They're safe, sorry. They're safe, but their body doesn't respond that way. Their body does not feel safe. And that's what you're saying
And
really,
that's
isn't it?
where it's so interesting because you're right. And people might be even inclined to say, like, what's wrong with my body? And they try to push it away, as opposed to, no, your body is so wise. Let's lean in and try to really understand why your body is doing this.
Mm,
And instead of treating it as like, a machine that's gone haywire and isn't working, we treat it more as like a little child that we love
mm,
that's like, oh, you're unsafe right now because you think there's monsters under your bed, but it's really just the dark and the shadow of the tree outside the window. Come here, let me give you a hug and let's figure this out together. That is like the way to see it, I think,
mm,
more than just seeing it as like, oh, my body's broken.
mm,
Gotta put more food in it, or they gotta fix it in some way. It's more like, no, it's just trying to help you out as much as it can
mm,
and doing the best it can.
mm, mm. Yeah, yeah. And very warm and supportive, isn't it? The way you come across is very warm. I'm sure people really appeal to that and like that to feel, that they probably feel so scared and misunderstood. But by being, making sense of their experiences, I think is a very important aspect as well. So they go away and think, oh, there's a reason why I feel this way. It now makes sense to me, rather than being very scared or
Absolutely.
feeling out of control or ashamed as well of feeling the way they are, and hating the fact they can't control their bodies, is a major thing.
I
Yeah.
think that's, such a big piece of therapy. It's like helping somebody feel safe, helping them understand this, and then to be able to put aside any shame that they're
Mm,
feeling about any of this stuff.
mm,
I mean, yeah, when it comes to trauma, when it comes to things that have happened to us and things that we're holding on, there is so much shame around it. And if we could make a little bit of a dent in that and help people not feel that burden of shame, that to me is extremely important.
mm. Yeah. And with IFS, I just want to be clear about how they would see the shame, because I wouldn't want to get that wrong. If there was a shame part, would they see that as a part?
No,
No,
I think IFS would see it more as a burden.
a
I think they
burden.
would see it more as like a burden that some of the parts or maybe all of the parts are holding on to.
Okay.
So the shame, the part that's feeling the shamed or humiliated or, feeling that it's trying to understand that part, really understanding why it's feeling that shame. And I know Martha Sweezy kind of differentiates between shame and guilt, where
Hmm.
shame is in her mind like more of I feel I'm bad, and then it starts having the feeling of like a negative cognition in EMDR, as opposed to I did something, I made a mistake,
Mm-hmm.
and I want to do better next time. So that would be more guilt. I feel guilt of it. So specifically with shame, I feel like I'm worthless. I feel like I'm no good. I don't fit in. That would be understanding the part, witnessing the part, getting that relationship strong enough with the part to eventually be able to ask it, how would it feel to let go of this shame? How would it feel to let go? Would you like to do a little bit of EMDR? Here, would you like to try a little experiment here? And maybe we could do a little bit of bilateral stimulation and maybe give yourself a hug and tap your shoulders and let's see what and then see what's beautiful about doing EMDR is you have the self energy present. You want to make sure there's the dual awareness and the self energy. So then you have the self energy talking with, let's say, an exile part. So you have the exile part as a burden. Now you have the self energy, and you say to the self energy, all right, well, this energy, this positive, loving, accepting energy, how does it feel about this part? And what could it say about the part? Does it, what is a positive thing, a positive cognition that could come from the self energy to the part? So
Mm-hmm.
now you have like organically, you're doing phase three of the model of EMDR, where you now have a negative cognition, you have a positive cognition. Okay, so how is that part really feeling in your body? Could you feel it? Could you feel where it is? Does it have any emotion to it right now? How bad does that emotion feel? Okay, now you got a suds, you got that. So then you can kind of take that and just start processing. Go with that and see what comes up with that
Yeah,
part.
yeah. And just people don't know what SUDS is as well, because people might think it's subject to units of distress, isn't it? And that's that level of distress that people feel. Yeah. And it's a great tool actually, I think, in EMDR, isn't it? Actually just sort of identifying, what that bit of you feels like and how intense it is. Yeah, yeah.
You're
Yeah.
right. And it's nice because then as you do processing, you're really allowing the person to just trust their unconscious, trust their body, trust whatever's coming up. And then after a little while, if there's movement, I find a lot of times the suds are going to go down,
Mm,
right? They'll say, oh, my subjective units of distress, you usually say from 0 to 10, 10 being the worst. They're like,
mm,
oh, they're 7, 8. You do it a couple of times. Oh, it's like a 5 or 6 now. And you keep going until you get hopefully to a 0. Um, And sometimes they'll get higher, but if you trust it, you know that like their body is going to process it through
Mhm.
and it is going to go down. And so that's some of the beauty of EMDR.
Absolutely. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think it's making a lot more sense to me how the two models work as well, and that sort of identification of the part and also the self energy, which is sort of like I think the healthy part of the self, if I've got that right. Sort of they're
Well,
having a
so even
conversation with
states
them.
would call it the healthy part.
Okay,
IFS would say part at all. IFS will really make a distinction
okay,
of a part is some entity within you
yeah,
that has some kind of job role. It wants to do something, whereas the self energy just is. It's
okay.
like just be. It's happy to just be. And so there's a real, in that sense, there's a real distinction between is this a part or is this self energy?
Okay. Right. Okay. That's really great. You've explained that. You're really helping me to understand it. It sounds
Good.
such a good, amazing therapy, but very deep as well, isn't it? It sounds as though, you need I think you need a good understanding, first of all, and I like the idea of actually having the therapy yourself as well. So again, you get to experience what that feels like.
I
So
will say that as a caution to the book that I edited. Like it's an amazing book, and I'm so grateful to all of the authors who've contributed to it. And I think each one of them would say, our intention is to inspire and to get you excited and to get you to want to know more and want to know because there's always more to learn. It's not to take the book and be like, oh, I get it, I could do this. It's more to take the book and be like, oh, where can I get training? Let me get some EMDR training. Let
absolutely.
me get some IFS training. Or if you're
Yeah.
not a therapist, to say like, oh, wow, there's hope here. If I have something that I'm sitting with and it's been with me my entire life, I can find a way to integrate it into my being where it doesn't have to hurt so much, or I don't have to get so triggered as much. So, let me go find an IFS therapist, or let me go find an EMDR therapist, or maybe even somebody that does IFS informed EMDR. But just to know that, there's so much amazing things out there that you
Mm.
never have to, I feel, sit with pain by yourself and feel hopeless and feel like it's never going to change.
Absolutely. And my understanding as well, when you read out the definition of trauma, you can help people who've got complex trauma or shut down or emotionally numb. It's the whole range, isn't it? Would that be fair to say, David? That's all possible with this IFS
Oh, I
informed
think I think
EMDR.
absolutely. I mean,
Mm,
the book just scratches the surface. But even in the book, we have a chapter on how to use this model for chronic pain, and then we have another chapter on how to use it with dissociation, which is, I think,
yeah.
some of perhaps what you're talking about with feeling numb out of your body,
Mm,
how to use it. So I think there's five different things of how to, with military vets in nature,
mm,
and so I think if I could have all the time and money in the world, I would reach out to 100 different people using the model. Probably could get something on everybody. I mean, there's books out there with like IFS and OCD and IFS and this and IFS and that. And then there's EMDR on this. And so now there needs to be stuff with IFS informed EMDR for each one of those afflictions.
yeah. Oh my gosh, it goes on and on. And you
But I don't
also,
think anything, yeah, I don't think anything is really off the table with
no.
it.
But I think the other point is that the book is full of very deep, well-informed research. People who are very experienced. They're trainers, aren't they? These are people who know their stuff, don't they? And
I
I
think,
think
yeah, if
it's
you
very
say
thoroughly
research, I would
researched.
be cautious. I don't, I think EMDR itself has a lot of research. Research on IFS informed EMDR, because of all these books that are coming out, is just starting to take place,
Mm,
which is so encouraging. I think this is really trainers who say, I have the qualitative research of I use this with my clients and it
yeah.
helps. and I use this and it's been life changing. Let me share it with you and see if it could inspire you to use it in a way that you feel
Mm,
comfortable with.
mm, absolutely. Yeah. And you also use the words creative and collaborative approaches. And I think you're also very keen, your podcast, I think, it contains the word compassion. So why the creative, collaborative, and compassion? Why are these words so important to you, David?
Yeah, I love that question. Well, I mean, going back to like my whole outlook on this work that we're doing and trauma healing, it's all about relationships. You know, it's all about connection. It's all about the magic that happens like when we're talking to each other, right? Or the audience listening to us. It's that gathering of a community. That's in my mind, that's a big part of the healing, if not all of it. So I think these words speak to like compassion, empowering, which empowering the other person, empowering yourself. There's in my mind of empowerment, there's like an equality that needs to take place. So you have the equality, the empowerment, the compassion, and this book is really a testament to that. Where I feel what stands it out from the other IFS EMDR books that were written by a single person is that this book in and of itself is like, this is what the work, how I envision the work, where it's like, it's all of us coming together
Mhm.
and adding to what each other has to say. And, you know, standing on the shoulders of people that came before us and then giving it to future generation and say, okay, where are you going to, what amazing places are you going to take this to?
Mm.
But it's really being in a system that's constantly evolving.
You make a very good point because sometimes you hear, sort of different therapies can be rivals as well. And there's no need for that, is there? It's that collaboration as well and sharing knowledge and experience together to make the world a better place and to actually, eradicate more people's lives who are burdened because they haven't been able to process their trauma. They're just carrying that
In the
burden with
world
them.
we live in today, and remember, I come from America. There's a shit show going on here. Please help. It is not great right now. And I feel like the more the merrier, the more healers we have, the more
Mm,
people that are doing this work. We need everybody to get on board. So I 100% agree with you
mm,
that it's like we want to welcome people in. We don't want to be turning people down
mm. No,
or competing.
yeah, absolutely. But you also got to have the right approach as well. There's boundaries there as well, which I think is important to say as well.
Oh,
It's
yes.
not,
Yes.
yeah, 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 yeah. So David, this is a lovely book, and I'm so pleased that
Thank
I
you.
bought it, and
I really
it's going to be my
appreciate you.
holiday read.
Oh, good.
Yeah, but
Let me, can I ask you a question about the book?
sorry.
A silly question about the book. What are you most interested in looking at in the book? See, I'm a fellow podcaster. I have to ask you a question.
I was asked, I was the one I was looking at before. Uh, there was one. I think it was the chapter 4, and it was your chapter, integration and the quest towards an ultimate model. So I think that's when you really talk about, the very well thought out integration. It's not just a bit here and a bit there. It's the thought out. This can really work as a model in itself by combining those two things. So that's the book that's the chapter that I'm
Oh,
reading at the moment. Does that answer your
that's
question?
awesome. I appreciate that.
Uh, the pain, I think, because I have see a lot of people with pain. I'm interested in that one yet, but I haven't read it yet.
That's a brilliant one too.
Yeah.
That's one by Elizabeth Finart who just she just wrote a book, a whole
Mm.
book on it. So this is that chapter, if you like it, is a taste of her book coming out.
Fantastic. Yeah, I can't wait to read it. Yeah. So, David, thank you so much for your contribution, both
Yeah.
by getting this book organized and for being a guest on the show.
Oh,
And
it's my pleasure.
yeah, it's
It's
been
so much
very kind
fun.
of you. But I think people might want to get in touch with you. Can you tell us a little bit more about, because I think you've got other things that you do as well. Just tell us a little bit more about what other resources that you have that people might be interested in.
Sure. Probably the best place would be my website, which is
Yep.
empowered through
Okay.
compassion.com. Empowered ED powerthroughcompassion.com. I have this thing now that I'm doing that I'm really excited about. So you'll like this. Um, every month, I'm going to do a live stream.
Oh,
So it's going to be a
wow.
live stream where it'll be a recording for the podcast. My wife is doing it with me. It's
Mhm.
open to whoever wants to come. It's very reasonable. It's free. But it's just to have a community, just to have people there. And in April, May, June, and July, we're going to break up the book into 4 parts, and we're going to have all the authors from each of the
Wow.
sections to be there as a panel. And then we're going to have them introduce what they wrote and then take questions from the audience. So it's easy because then now for the next 4 months, I have one of my podcasts filled by that live stream, but it also is going to be really cool to really highlight the book and to share, some insights from the authors of the book.
Mm.
And then let's see what else. And I have my podcast, which
Hmm.
is just same name, Empowered Through Compassion.
Hmm.
And yeah, anybody could reach out to me. There's things you could fill out on my website. I should say, my wife and I, our website. We have like newsletters that
Mm.
come out, 4 or 5 times a year, and I'm just, and we have an Instagram. So
Yeah.
tons of
You
ways.
also have private practice. I mean, people could, if they're interested in this model, they could reach out to you as well. You are a therapist and you do practice this model.
So it's because I'm a social worker and the way that things work in the US, I'm only technically able to see people with my license who live in Massachusetts.
Oh, okay.
So consulting is a different game. If
Okay.
anybody ever wanted consultation to talk about clients that they have,
Hmm.
that I could do anywhere, including international.
Mm.
Consultation doesn't matter. We could talk about the models. But for therapy, yeah, I
Okay.
can't even go out of my state
Oh,
to do it yet. I'm licensed in New Hampshire, and we're
interesting.
debating whether to do Florida. But yes, my practice is all from
Okay.
Massachusetts.
I didn't know that. Okay,
Yeah.
that's really
I think
interesting.
in UK it's a little bit different. Is
Yes,
it?
yes. It tends to
Yeah.
be, yeah,
Yeah.
national, yeah, yeah. I think you can. I think you can. I won't go into that now. I mean, this is just great to have you as a guest, and I'm
Yeah.
sure the podcast will be incredibly interesting. And thank you for sharing your resources, and that will be in the show notes, so people can actually pick up the name if they can't remember the name of your website. That'll be
Oh,
all written in the show
perfect.
notes.
Perfect.
Yeah, lovely.
Yeah.
Okay, okay.
It's
So
such a
yeah.
pleasure talking with
Yeah.
you.
And I do hope people reach out and get the book. It is more for therapists, I would say, isn't it?
It's
It's
for therapists, or if you really want to nerd out on the models.
oh,
Like if you're somebody who's
therapists and nerds. I
really,
like
really
that.
interested in the technical, you want to see like behind the curtain of what's in the therapist's mind, this is the perfect book. But I think honestly, the people that would be interested in it is people that are actively, yeah, therapists.
Or interested or want to become
Or,
as well.
or have a lot of interest in it. Yeah,
Yeah.
I try to make it so that it's accessible to everybody. So
Yeah.
if you're interested in and thinking about going into therapy and want to
Yeah.
read a little bit about it first,
Yeah.
this
Yeah.
would be great.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you so much. Yeah. So thank you, David. And thank you everybody for coming in and listening to the podcast. I hope you enjoyed it and please like and subscribe. So thank you again, David, for being such a wonderful guest, and thank you, everybody, for listening.